Hey everyone, and welcome. So let's get right into it with a pretty big question. Are we just born with our ethics, or is it something we actually learn over time? That's what we're going to unpack today, this idea of a moral compass and where it really comes from. You've seen this happen, right? It's all over the news. Some huge, successful company makes a massive mistake, or a leader we all looked up to has a major fall from grace. And you just have to ask, how? Why do people who seem good and organizations that seem successful end up making these awful ethical choices? That's the real puzzle we're trying to solve here. All right, so first things first, let's really get a handle on the problem. We need to understand those moments when good people, smart people, find themselves on the completely wrong side of an ethical line. The easy answer is just to point fingers and say, oh, they're just bad apples, right? People were just fundamentally unethical. But you know what? The research tells us it's way more complicated than that. These ethical screw-ups often aren't about a person's core character. It's actually about how we learn to make these decisions in the first place. And that idea right there brings us to the heart of the matter, the code we learn. Let's dig into the psychology behind how our sense of right and wrong actually takes shape. The official term for this is moral development. And it's pretty much what it sounds like. It's the whole process we go through as humans of figuring out right from wrong, building our own value system, and, this is the key part, learning how to actually act on those values. And listen, this isn't just something that happens when we're kids. As this quote makes really clear, it's a lifelong journey. It's not like a switch that just flips once you graduate. Nope. It's a constant process of learning and growing from the day we're born till the very end. Now, this whole concept comes from the incredible work of psychologists like Jean Piaget and especially a guy named Lawrence Kohlberg. Kohlberg came up with this game-changing theory that all of us, every single one of us, move through these predictable stages of moral thinking. The best way to picture it, think of it like climbing a ladder. So, you ready? Let's climb that ladder. We're about to break down Kohlberg's stages, and you'll see it gives us this incredible roadmap for understanding how our own ethical thinking actually evolves. Okay, so Kohlberg breaks it all down into three big levels. First up, you have the pre-conventional level, which is really all about yourself. Then we climb up to the conventional level, where we start to think more about our community and social groups. And finally, if we get there, is the post-conventional level. This is where we start thinking in terms of universal truths. Okay, so let's start at the bottom of the ladder. This is the pre-conventional level, and honestly, it's all about me. Stage 1 is super simple. How do I avoid getting in trouble? Think like a little kid. I won't swipe that cookie because I'll get put in timeout. Then you get to stage 2, which is a little more advanced, but still all about self-interest. It's the what's in it for me stage. It's totally transactional. Sure, I'll help you, but what do I get out of it? Now, as we move up a rung to the conventional level, our world gets a little bigger. Our focus shifts from just me to us, to the group. In stage 3, it's all about being a good boy or good girl. We want our friends and family to like us, so we follow the rules to fit in. Stage 4 gets a little more formal. It's about law and order. We uphold the rules because they're the rules, period. The sign says, don't walk on the grass, so I won't. This is where it gets really fascinating. This top level, the post-conventional. This is where people start to think for themselves and ask, wait a minute, are these laws even fair? In stage 5, we start thinking about a social contract, the idea that laws should work for the good of everyone, and if they don't, they should be changed. And then at the very, very top, stage 6, well, that's where your own conscience and universal principles of justice become your guide. You might even decide to break an unjust law because your conscience tells you it's the right thing to do. Okay, so if we all have this ladder inside of us, what helps us actually climb it? What pushes us to those higher levels? Well, now we're going to look at the real-world stuff that shapes our climb, especially when it comes to our jobs. So this climb up the moral ladder, it's not a solo journey, not at all. It's influenced by so much, our education, just plain old age and life experience, and of course the culture we grow up in. And here's a big one for our chat today. It is heavily, heavily influenced by our workplace, the company's official policies, the unwritten rules of its culture, and maybe most of all, how the leaders behave. And hey, this isn't just a nice theory. We've got the data to prove it. Check this out. One study of 195 people found a really clear connection. The more years of education someone had, the higher they scored on these moral reasoning tests. So education literally gives you a boost up that ladder. And all of this leads to a super important point. The law is not the ceiling for good behavior. It's the floor. It's just the starting line, the absolute bare minimum we should be doing. So, let's get this straight. There's a huge difference here. The law just tells you to follow the rules that are written down. But morality asks for more. It asks us to think about how our actions affect other people. It demands that we go above and beyond what's just written in some legal code. So, if our moral reasoning is something we can develop, what can we actually do about it? Let's get practical. This brings us to our final section, how we can get to work on building a better moral compass, both for ourselves and for the places where we work. And this right here is the best part. This is the optimistic takeaway from all of this. Moral development isn't just something that happens to us. We can be intentional about it. We can actually create environments that help people climb that ladder to higher and higher levels of ethical thinking. So, how do we do that? Well, it starts with ethics education way back in school. It continues with real, ongoing ethics training at work, not just some boring one-day seminar. It means we need leaders who don't just talk the talk, but actually walk the walk. And it means creating a company culture that doesn't just tolerate, but celebrates and rewards people for having the moral courage to do the right thing, especially when it's tough. And this isn't just some nice-to-have extra. It's critical. As this researcher points out, when young people are entering the workforce, they're in this pivotal moment of moral transition. The kind of training and mentorship they get right then can literally shape the rest of their career. So it all comes down to this, really. If our moral compass is something that's built, not something we're just born with, well, that forces us to ask a really important question, doesn't it? In our companies, in our communities, and in our own lives, what are we actively choosing to teach? That's something to chew on.